everyone! We are here on the casual couch. It's kind of dimly lit because it's very exciting. We are about to watch Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, and we're going to let you join us for the ride. Obviously, we can't show any of the footage because, copyright reasons. But we are going to watch an episode, and then we are going to come back and talk about that episode and what we thought about it. If you've paid any attention to my channel for a while, you would know that The Dark Crystal is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's usually the one when people ask me, what's your favorite movie? I tell them The Dark Crystal. So you can tell that I'm obviously a really big fan, and this is, super exciting for me. Because they did it right. There was rumors for a long time that there was going to be another movie, but it was going to be CGI, and I was, not happy about that, but whatever. It was going to be more Dark Crystal. But now this one is all puppets, and it's done by Jim Henson's daughter, and I'm, so psyched. So psyched that there's a ferret here. She does look like a character out of The Dark Crystal, doesn't she? Don't ferrets look like they belong in that world?
They do.
Whenever I tell people that I love The Dark Crystal, they always have one of two reactions. One being, oh, I love that too, and the other being, that movie fucked me up as a kid, and now I can never watch it again, which is very disappointing to me. Which obviously you don't fall in the never watch it again spectrum.
I'm definitely not in the, oh, I loved it too category, though, so I don't know where you only get these two responses.
He may be the only person I've met who is ambivalent about The Dark Crystal. Everyone else is like, oh my gosh, so good, or that was horrifying and how can you possibly like it? So those are the two things.
I mean, definitely as a youth watching it, I'm like, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like, oh my god, it's so good, nor was I scarred by it. As an adult, being explained many of the processes that went into it, I can appreciate it more than I did as a child.
The thing about The Dark Crystal is you don't watch it because you love the story, because the story is very simple. It's a hero's journey. Get the MacGuffin, return MacGuffin to castle, stab MacGuffin into Crystal. But the artistry, holy shit. Which is why I love it so much, because Jim Henson is one of my heroes and his artistry is fully on display. There's no humans anywhere to muck things up. It's all puppets, and it's so delightful. I think that's all I plan to say on my intro. We're going to watch the first episode, which is called And Begin All the Same, which makes me wonder if all of the episodes are going to be lines from the movie. And we're going to see how we get. This is a prequel series, so it happens well before Jen and Kira are even born. And this is when the Gelflings are still thriving, but it looks as though from the previews that the Urskeks have been separated into the Mystics and the Skeksis at this point. We're going to see. It's going to kind of be like watching Rogue One, because we know all these people are going to die, but it's still going to be glorious stuff. Any final thoughts, Adam?
You ramble a lot.
I do, because I'm excited. All right.
Thrall. At its center, the crystal of truth.
So we just watched episode 1, and it was pretty good. It was definitely a foundational episode, so introducing people who maybe aren't very familiar with the movie or who haven't seen the movie in a long-ass time. Reintroducing them to the world, the concepts, the Gelflings' powers, the female Gelflings can fly. Watch them do that.
Girls.
Yeah, they got the lines about being a girl, and the fact that they can dream fast so they can share memories when they purposefully touch hands or whatever. And we met the Skeksis. We haven't seen the Mystics. The crystal seems to be intact, which kind of confuses me.
So, if you remember the chip that was missing, it's one little chip from the top.
Yeah.
It did look mostly intact before.
And okay, I know that in the movie when they are explaining the crystal, they say the Skeksis broke it. So the Urskeks definitely split before the crystal was cracked, but I thought that the crystal of truth didn't become the Dark Crystal until it was cracked. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a shitty fan and I just don't understand the lore enough, but I thought it would be already cracked by this point. But that means that at some point, some Skeksis is probably going to break it, which means that the shard's going to have to get out somewhere. I'm really curious, how much are they going to do in this season? And, are we going to see the crystal cracked? Are we going to see who has the prophecy? Who has the original by Gelfling hand or else by nun prophecy? I want it. I want all of it.
Well, that's Agra.
I don't know that Aughra has the prophecy, because the one who tells Jen the prophecy, I believe, is the mystic.
Oh.
When single shines the triple sun.
We've got at least one Skeksis that isn't there in the movie, so you know that she's going to snuff it. She's got great, disgusting pustules going on her face. So far, the Gelflings are serving the Skeksis. They believe that the Skeksis are good. They believe that the Skeksis are caretaking the crystal, and everything's good. And we meet 3 of the 7 clans of Gelflings. It's possible, I don't know if they're planning on just having this be like a limited series and this is it, or if they're planning on having more seasons. This is very intensive to create with all of the puppets and everything, so I don't know. This might be all we get, but I suspect if they are going to do more seasons, we will probably meet more of the clans, and we're just starting with 3, because that 7 is a lot. So we meet the 3 heroes, which were in all the promotional materials, so the warrior one, I don't remember their names, the warrior one, the princess one, and Deet, who I remember because her name is Deet, and she's like the naturey one, and the closest to being more like Kira, I think.
I have 2 major thoughts. One, they've introduced the Skeksis are not all evil to the bone at this point. There are several that seem nice or are willing to be nice to serve their own purpose.
Yeah, like they can definitely pretend to be nice. I don't know if they're actually nice.
And I am curious to see how the schemes unfold amongst the Skeksis, because there are definitely more of them right now.
Yeah.
And there will be battles over the crystal that see some of them dead in the future.
And the Emperor is still alive, and we know that he dies of old age
beginning.
at the beginning of the movie. So the Emperor is still alive, and at least one other Skeksi. I think there might be 2. I'm not sure. I'm a terrible fan. I'm sorry. I recognize most of them. Like, obviously, there's the Chamberlain scheming already, like he do. The scientist, got all of the different ones. The glutton. I don't know what his job is. To eat, I guess. And they all have names, but I didn't memorize them because, again, I'm a terrible fan.
My second big thing is that we are introduced to the 3 clans that most directly serve the Skeksis, and that the Skeksis will have those 3 clans go to war with the remaining clans to harvest.
That's your theory, anyway.
I feel that's how we're going to get introduced to the other clan.
Well, we have 2 of the clans that deal the most with the Skeksis. The warrior ones, who are like their personal guards, and we see at least one kingdom that they visit to get their tithe. But Deet and her people are basically like forgotten, and they live underground, and like not even the other Gelflings know that they're there. So 2 of the 3 are deeply connected with the Skeksis.
Yes.
We've heard snippets of Aughra and like who she is and what she is and how like cool and special she is, so that's interesting.
Cooler and specialer than we thought from the movie.
I wouldn't have thought from the original that she was like essentially a goddess of Thra, but she kind of low-key is. But the Skeksis actually gave her cool like machine, and so she just kind of went to focus on like looking at the stars instead of paying attention to what was happening. By the way, forgive me that I sound so congested. It is allergy season, and I just put up 50 bales of hay, and I'm very allergic to them. So I feel like there were some clunky moments that were basically because it was trying to be so foundational and to catch people up to speed. Because, like, I know that female Gelflings can fly. Cute little scene where they do, and it's a little bit, like, some of it's a little bit clunky, and there's this romantic couple where you know one of them's gonna die because they're happy. And so they're like, oh, do you remember the last time we were here? Let's dream fast together. Yay! And you're like, oh, okay, that's a power that they have, but it was a little bit clunky.
So the next episode is Nothing is Simple Anymore.
Which is another line. All of these are lines from the first movie, so that's exciting.
Even the first thing I remember is fire?
Yeah, when Jen and Kira are dream fasting together, one of them, like, says that. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's where that's from. Super fans who are watching this can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I am in the middle of the fandom. Like, I recently became a member of a group on Facebook, which is like all ranges of fandom, and I am proudly in the middle, where I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I want to buy the merch, and I have a poster in my hallway and a t-shirt and everything, but, like, I haven't memorized all the Skeksis' names. I only read some of the graphic novels. Anyway, we're going to stop recording, and then we'll get back after episode 2, Nothing is Simple Anymore.
The source of all life.
Alright, we just finished the second episode. It's really chugging along, we're making good time, we're getting into the story. Basically, the Skeksis are evil, imagine that. And they were harvesting their youth from the crystal, but it's not working anymore. So they are now figuring out how to use gelflings and get their essence. And they stole the essence of Rian's girlfriend. And he has absconded with his bottle of girlfriend to try to, I guess, I don't know, tell everyone else about her? I don't know, really.
As evidence to present to their madra.
Okay, Adam's reading a description off the screen.
It's, I think it's like the clan mother.
Oh, like maybe the queen or whatever?
The matriarch of the clan.
So we learned some interesting things in this episode. He's running away with his bottle of girlfriend. Meanwhile, Deet has been told by a tree that she needs to go to the surface and save the world. So she's also heading for the royal city. And the princess, who is still there, has just been... Well, first she drugged a guy, and then...
Well, okay, you're making it sound kind of bad. It was a moment of female empowerment.
No, she was very clever. She was very clever.
They were about to be slipped a Mickey by some old creepy dude, and instead they're like, look over there, here's some money that I dropped. Whoop!
Whoop.
How about you Mickey yourself, old creepy dude?
Switcheroo. So it was a good moment where, you know, because you got to see that the princess is clever and thoughtful. But yeah, so she has been sent to the Order of Lesser Works or something like that.
Basically volunteering to help the poor.
When really she wants to stay and research the symbol that she saw from this magic book that she briefly sort of ruined the library.
There was very much a My Little Ponies moment.
Yeah, book tornado situation.
Yeah, I forget which pony it is that Spike follows around all the time.
Twilight Sparkle?
Might be, but it was very much a pony, maybe Twilight Sparkle, in the library magic moment, book whoosh thing.
Oh, and Deet has a new companion in the form of possibly the best character so far, a podling who is determined to become a paladin, and so he is traveling to the capital city to be knighted, which, at least in his own head, is a good idea.
The podling has a name, dear. It's Hup.
Hup? I didn't remember his name. You probably just read it off of there. Hup is great. Hup fights with a spoon, and he is a delight. And
Hup fought a spitter off with nothing but the spoon and his own head.
Basically, if Adam was any character in this, he is Hup. So in this episode, we saw more of the world, because Deet is out and exploring, and she met some of Fizzgig's species.
Rolly dogs.
Rolly dogs, yes. Which undoubtedly will probably come back later because they're very popular. So, you know, gotta sell all the merchandise. Yeah. Definitely Netflix was very go hard or go home with this series, and I'm really pleased. I recently watched a YouTube video about how Netflix is in trouble, and they are buying too many like high quality series and not making enough profit because they only make money off of subscriptions instead of advertisements and stuff. So, and their subscriptions are down, and then now Disney's going to do Disney Plus. So anyway, long story short, I'm really happy that we got this series when we did before Netflix is probably destroyed. Augra's back. She's woken up, and she's going to go see the Skeksis.
Podlings watched over unconscious Augra in their lab
a generation
for
of podlings.
3 generations.
Unclear how long they live. The podlings are getting a lot of screen time, which is great because there's a lot of cool things you can do there. There's cool things happening with the gelflings. My only, if I had complaints, would be visually they're doing a lot with puppets. So much with puppets and so much with practical sets and everything like that. But they are using computer animation for some of it. Like the Skeksis have these tongues in some scenes, and they flop around, and they're weird, and I don't like it. They don't need those. I was fine with the beaks. They don't need the tongue. I believe that they're speaking. And I was a little disappointed that Agra's giant apparatus thing is CG instead of practical. So that's a little disappointing, but like not so disappointing as I'm like, that's it, series ruined. And they will use CG for like some of the long distance shots or like when Rian was falling out of the palace. Bray has a bitchy sister.
Also has a supportive sister.
Indeed, she's got both. Oh, I have a theory, because Deet is really, like, tuned into nature and animals and everything like that. I have a theory that Kira is descended from Deet's clan. That's just my theory. But everybody's theorizing. They're like, ooh, which clans did Kira and Jen come from? You know, like, who are their ancestors? Ooh. It is interesting how a lot of the male Gelflings look a lot like Jen, and a lot of the female Gelflings look a lot like Kira. So it is kind of like, we have seen female Gelflings with dark hair, but they tend towards having light hair and light skin, and male Gelflings tend towards having dark hair and darker skin. If that was just kind of a decision because Jen and Kira, I guess, are archetypal male and female Gelflings, that's just kind of what they look like. And now Avi's here, and she's decided to be a puppet by being underneath the blankets. I am a puppet. I can't see. Alright, we're gonna go on to the next episode, which is What Was Sundered and Undone, which, if you remember, is part of the prophecy. Oh! The crystal is cracked. We found out in this episode. The crystal is cracked. So the shard is probably out there. So now we just have to wait for the prophecy.
Be careful, Mustelid. There's a long drop over there.
She's already over here. She's got places to go. So we'll see. I don't know who has the shard now, if anyone has the shard, if Agra already has the shard. Maybe she doesn't think anything of it at this point.
Agra probably does not have the shard right now, but being as they are marching to the Skeksis, they'll probably get it.
But no mention even has been made of the shard, so we'll see what's going on with that eventually. But let's get to What Was Sundered and Undone, which might have something to do with the shard, since that line directly refers to the crystal being broken.
Indeed.
We'll find out.
The Skeksis have corrupted it.
Okay, so we just finished episode 3, and that's probably all we're going to do for tonight, because we're going to, like, go to sleep at some point.
Indeed.
Or he'll sleep, and I'll just be awake with my stupid allergies all night. But, yeah, I feel like so far this series could be called Deet's No Good, Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Day. Because, like, this girl cannot get a break, but I think she finally did because she met Rian. Finally, so at least 2 of our players have come together.
Psych. Except they didn't come together. They crossed paths and moved on. So far, none of our POV characters are together.
No, they're not technically together. Apparently, the creature that Fizzgig is just called a Fizzgig, which I think is kind of cheating.
Yeah.
Like, his name is Fizzgig. She named him. Like, they should be called something else. I don't know what. But there was one that had an eye patch. Like, what even? Like, it's like
It's
putting
a
an eye
pirate.
It's like putting an eye patch on your dog. But it is really adorable, as silly as it is, and I want one.
If my dog lost an eye or my ferret lost an eye, I'd give him a badass eye patch.
I don't know how you would keep an eye patch on a ferret.
Glue.
Alright, so Adam should not be allowed to have pets. Okay, what else happened in this episode? Everybody's really having a bad time, but Deet's having the worst time.
Got imprisoned, but they did have some good beer first.
Yeah.
And kicked some ass.
Yeah,
They beat up 3 different Gelflings before the guards showed
and his
up.
spoon got broken, but then he found a new spoon, so he was like, yes. Rian is still having problems. The Skeksis have convinced his father that he has some sort of disease that will be passed on through dream fasting, so they can't dream fast conveniently. So now the dad is trying to bring Rian back to the Skeksis so they can cure him and definitely not turn him into blue goo.
Agra is a perv. Stuck their eyeball right under some naked Skeksis junk.
Yeah, she was like, I don't know, she wanted to see that. I don't know what the plan was, but it was weird. And then the princess was forced into this order where she had to wear a stupid hat and bathe podlings for reasons unclear. But the podlings weren't into it, and she left. She was also not into it. No one was into that. She gave a chrysalis to one of the people, one of the, like, seafaring tribe, and they were like, no, it's a special moth. Ask it your question. And she asked it a really vague question, and now she gets to follow it off into the...
It turned the throne room's chair or throne into a mimic, and it ate the princess.
Yes.
The end.
I might be a little bit out of it, so I'm glad Adam is helping me remember, like, details. Because, like, my entire face is, like, very stuffed up right now. I was fine until I moved hay around, and that was a bad, terrible idea. One thing I especially noticed in this episode, like, because we were getting a lot from the royal sisters, and they were having emotional scenes, I really noticed how awesome the facial, like, mechanics on the Gelflings are, the way that their ears move, their eyebrows will raise, they're, like, they can smile, like, it's really subtle, but the mechanics on their faces, you know, like, Jen and Kira were pretty much, like, they could open and close their mouths, and that's really all they had, and it was up to kind of their movement to show you how they were feeling, but these Gelflings have really quite expressive faces, and I appreciate the puppetry on display here.
The next episode is The First Thing I Remember is Fire.
Alright guys, I'll see you tomorrow with the next episode. The First Thing I Remember is Fire. Sounds promising.
And now our world is at risk from the darkening.
What is the darkening?
Alright, so we just watched episode 4. And what happened in it?
That's an interesting episode.
There's a lot. A lot is happening.
We met the hunter and the hunter.
We met another Skeksis and probably his counterpart.
Yes.
Who is the archer.
The mystic.
Who's a mystic. And it's cool to meet, because we don't know how many Skeksis are alive at this point. Like, we don't really know how many Urseks there were, how many Skeksis and Mystics there were. So it's, the showrunners really have a chance to be like, we need a Skeksis who can do this. The hunter. And he's this, like, cool assassin guy who wears a skull. The sort of lordly Skeksis, the ones who are like, we rule, we are very sort of hands-off, you know, they'll fight, but it's more like posturing and that kind of thing. They use the crystal to regenerate themselves, but there's no indication that the hunter does that at all, and yet he seems way better off than any of the other Skeksis.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, is that kind of the show saying, like, they don't need the crystal at all?
This is a drug that is just rotting them from the inside.
Yeah, like, it's not actually helping them, it's actually making it worse, and if they were just living lives out in the world, potentially a normal Skeksis lifespan for all we know, they would be fine. I have a giant bear claw.
Yeah. It's an
Delicious.
elephant ear.
Oh, I'm sorry,
actually.
elephant ear. I'm sorry. I don't know the difference between pastries. There's a very
Sounds
Skeksis-centric episode. They were doing a lot. The Chamberlain got deposed by the general briefly. They kind of have an ongoing feud. It happens again in the movie when the Emperor dies. It's the general versus the Chamberlain. All right, everyone, hastily running to your keyboards to correct me. I now understand that I was wrong about this. This general I mistook for the Gartham Master who's in the movie. The Gartham Master, who has a rivalry with the Chamberlain in the movie, is not actually present in the series. He's briefly mentioned to be off doing something else, but I missed that or something. So for a long time, I thought that this general was going to become the Gartham Master, which is not true. So anytime that you hear me referencing the general as the Gartham Master, know that it's a common mistake. A lot of fans were confused by it, but I know now that that is not the case. The Chamberlain is all about brains and not about brawn, and he cannot seem to beat the general, who is much more just, like, physically scary. The Emperor has realized that he's, like, falling apart, so that's great for us, not him.
We got some symbology. We're beginning to understand the strange symbology that Brea is getting. And
she was up to some stuff too this episode.
Yep. And they created a rock monster pet dog.
It's not really shaped like a dog. It just acts like one.
It's probably going to be the only reason they survive, because it sounds like we weren't given many details, but the general is going to Hurrah.
Yes, the capital city, Hurrah.
Hurrah.
I think it's Harar. But because they all have British accents, they pronounce it hurrah.
And it's interesting that, like, the Chamberlain is actually smart, and the scientist is actually against doing this at all, as far as the Skeksis go.
Yeah, like, some of the Skeksis are not quite as keen as others on this whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Chamberlain is keen, but he also is like, we can't kill all the Gelflings. We have to be smart. Like, if we're going to harvest Gelflings for our own immortality, we can't just kill them willy-nilly, like the buffalo.
Chamberlain's plan would probably work with a little bit of tweaking, because we already have seen several times that the Gelflings are bigoted racists towards each other.
Yeah, there's Gelfling racism, which I guess that's one of the things I kind of actually appreciate about this, because, like, we didn't know any culture about the Gelflings before, because all we had was Jen and Kira, and it wouldn't make sense to come into this whole planet with people that all just get along. You know, it's not just one big happy clan of Gelflings. It's like, no, they don't get along, and they're racist against each other, and they're racist against podlings.
If the Skeksis leveraged that and only harvested from certain ones and kept the other ones in their pocket, they could probably keep this gig going for quite a while.
They could potentially convince some Gelflings that other Gelflings are, like, worse than them somehow, and be like, yes, these are the ones that we harvest. And the other Gelflings would help them keep those Gelflings down.
The scientist told the general, we need 50 Gelflings per tribe.
Which he was just making up a number. He has no idea.
And the Emperor is probably going to get like, look, I've got 20,000 Gelflings.
I brought the whole city.
That's how many trying, but then the Skeksis are going to binge on it. They're not going to ration themselves.
We also got some Aughra. This episode was had a lot of stuff going on. Well, first, Rian managed to convince some other Gelflings, including one from the Sifa tribe and one of the warrior princess, that he is good, and they all dream fasted, and they got his memory, and also his dad.
I don't think there was one from the Sifa tribe there. There was the Thurnker, the ones that were his friend, Rhea's friend.
I thought they were Sifa.
The Sifa are the Romani knockoff.
And it is a little hard to tell the different clans apart, even though they are fairly different looking.
They mentioned their names, and I just had forgotten the name. But Rhea's best male friend was from the something with a TH starting.
Okay, so it is a different clan.
And their sister showed up with another friend from that clan. And then the Haran clan, the noble clan, is there with the warrior princess, and then the Stonewood clan is there by
Rian
and their father.
Of course, Rian's dad didn't last very long because if there's a reconciliation, there's gonna be a killing. Deet and Rian have once again reunited, so we'll see how they do.
Indeed.
Deet freed her friend. Her podling friend, Hup, from his prison, and so he's back, and they're adventuring together, and they're an adorable, awesome friend pair. So, alright, so we're going to watch the next episode, which is She Knows All the Secrets, and we'll get back to you after those shenanigans.
Indeed.
Behold.
Wow, can Audra dance?
Aughra can indeed dance. She danced in this episode. She finally heard the Song of Thra.
It was a great Aughra dance party, was this episode.
Yep. Mostly it was just Aughra dancing, not so much of a party. There was some vision questing going on.
They got the adventuring party together.
They did. They didn't dance, though. But yeah, Aughra got a bunch of people together in the dream space, which I really thought was cool. I like that they decided to take this sort of MacGuffin-y thing from the movie, which is the dream fasting, which is like, here's a convenient way these two characters can share their backstories, to be like an actual like big plot point in this. The Gelflings have these abilities, and we're going to use them for our story.
So there's no grand misunderstanding in this, because they're just like, what is it called again?
Dream fasting.
Dream fast with me so we can avoid the grand misunderstanding.
Yeah, and there's never, like, every time you think they're going to make some dumb excuse, like, oh, I don't want to, or, oh, well, I don't, not going to listen to you, whatever. They dream fast anyway, so it's really cool that they are like, no, we're not going to be cheap and find reasons for them not to dream fast.
Like, your hands are really dirty and never been
Yeah,
washed.
we're going to have them dream fast when it makes sense, and then the plot just has to deal with the fact that Gelflings can share memories with each other. So that's good writing, is what that is. Good writing. A bad writer would just keep finding excuses for them not to use this power. They double down. They're like, not only can they share memories, they can get into this place called the dream space, and they can all, like, see this vision.
Aughra
help. Like,
them.
Thra would have to, like, allow them into the dream space. They can't just do it natively, but, like, it's another part of that ability they have.
Early on in the episode, before everything took a dance party twist, the Chamberlain had captured Ra?
Rhea, right? Rian. Rhea's the
had
other
captured Rian, and they were talking, and Rian was just wasn't going to cooperate with the Skeksis, but the Chamberlain used their words, bard that they are, and convinced Rian to work with him to save more of the Gelflings.
Save.
And that was cool.
Yeah, the Chamberlain is definitely using, like, psychological techniques to try to get Rian on his side, which is what he do. The Chamberlain do what the Chamberlain do, and he's definitely in his full element here, trying to manipulate everybody. Like, by the movie, he's still doing it, but, like, he's kind of running out of options by the movie. But, like, here, he's in full Chamberlain mode. The Queen is on board, but then she died.
Gelflings bleed painty Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah, Gelfling blood is like Pepto-Bismol colored, so that's interesting. We've never seen their blood before, really. I thought you could see a little bit of it on Jen when he gets the crystal, like, stabs him in the arm in the movie, but it looked red to me, but it was a dark scene, so maybe there wasn't even really anything.
They invented Nebri bikes, and they're rolling around on those super fast.
The friend is back. They rescued him off screen.
Oh, how could we forget? Hop is now a paladin.
Yep, Hop got made a paladin. Right before the Queen died, she made him a paladin.
Still, first paddling paladin.
Yep.
The eldest daughter, the eldest princess of the All Madra, though, is very much loyal to the old system and is now the new All Madra.
She's gone full evil. Well, not full evil,
I wouldn't say evil. Not even all the Skeksis have gone full evil.
Adam will always try to be like, this guy's not quite evil. He wants the nice kind of slavery. And I'm like, honey, that's still evil, though. So you guys know that my theory is that Kira comes from Dietz people, Dietz clan, and my new theory is that Jen comes from the clan that, like, the friend character comes from. Now, I realize that this fan theory is pretty unpopular, as most people believe that Jen and Kira are from the two main clans in the story, that of Vapra and Stone in the Wood, but I prefer to be a little bit more out of the box. I like to look at ways that they would maybe not be so stereotypical, and I think that my personal headcanon is that Kira comes from the Groton clan, and Jen comes from the Spritton clan, I believe is what it is. The Landstriders on the screen, on this loading screen, remind me that one thing that CG allows you to do is to have Landstriders without having to have an acrobat inside them who will literally die if they fall over. So that's good. We haven't seen any Gartham yet, which is disappointing. Because the Gartham have the glowy purple eyes like all of the corrupted creatures do.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they are not quite here yet. And I think the Skeksis with the giant mohawk, which I don't think is the Gartham Master, is trying to pool or collect the darkening and use and manipulate.
Oh, that was the Emperor. The Gartham are like these big giant beetles, and we haven't really seen anything like that. Are they going to be melded from two different creatures that the evil
They're like spitters.
They're kind of like spitters, but they're much bigger and bulkier.
Yeah. They're more stand-uppy, but not that much bigger. I think they're going to be
they're more like
spitters.
The spitters is like a spider, and they're much more like beetles, very rounded. I don't think they're going to come from spitters. That is a popular theory. You're not alone. Some people think that is where they come from. I don't think they're going to. I don't know why. I just don't think they're going to. I think they might either be. I think they might be their own creature that maybe is kind of born of the evil, or they are going to be like melded from two different creatures. But we'll find out. Next episode, baby. Anything last? Let's say.
No.
Cool. Alright, we're back after episode 6, and what happened in that episode? They're all starting to run together because we've been watching them non-stop today. So, mostly this one is kind of the Gelflings, like, activating, I guess, like...
Viva la resistance! They succeed in spreading the word about the horrible things the Skeksis did to one Gelfling.
Yes, and...
well, 2 now,
yeah,
because
2.
They also murdered the Almadra,
yep.
and that pissed off a lot of people, and so the Gelflings in the Crystal Castle rebelled, and some Gelfling somewhere else asked, how do you defeat someone who is immortal? And that makes me curious, really, as to what happened, and... Like, we saw one Skeksis already get stabbed on camera, and it barely affected them.
The Chamberlain gets stabbed a lot. Now, you do have to factor in that they wear a lot of clothes. Like, their actual bodies are not that big inside all of that.
I'm still curious about how the Skeksis fight. Do they have some unnatural advantage from having drained the crystal and or recently drained a Gelfling? Were they brutally battered themselves and barely managed, but then they recovered by feasting
drinking
essence?
all that delicious Gelfling essence?
What exactly happened, and
I
how
think they do have
defeat a Skeksis?
I think even without the essence, they had a healing factor, because like the stabbed guy didn't seem to stay stabbed for too long, and the Chamberlain got his hand stomped on, and then recovered from it pretty quickly as well. So I think they do heal quickly, probably because of the crystal. Because that was all off screen, and then the Chamberlain got back, and it was like, we beat all of the Gelflings. Now maybe they took quite a few of them by surprise.
We never really see how many guards there are.
Yeah.
There are maybe 20 imprisoned afterwards at most. And maybe some of the guards escaped. But there are about a dozen Skeksis in there at the moment.
And they are much bigger than the Gelflings. Intimidating. It's like all of a sudden you have to fight the king, or your gods almost, essentially. I think some Gelflings might hesitate for just long enough for the Skeksis to stab the crap out of them. And Skeksis do have 4 arms, although most of them don't use their secondary arms. In fact, a lot of them, like, at least once we get to the point of the movie, their secondary arms are atrophied and just kind of, like, tucked up against them.
Yes, when they're old and decrepit.
But we don't know if these guys are still able to use their secondary arms, and therefore are even more, like, dangerous. Like the Hunter does. He's got, like, 4 swords, you know, which makes sense, because if you've got 4 arms, you might as well put swords in them all. We met some desert-dwelling Gelflings, who are, their culture's apparently obsessed with death. We're not sure actually how obsessed they are, or whether that's just Rian knowing the old stories of these people.
That the Skeksis have told them, because we all know how truthful and honest those stories have been so far.
Yeah. So, but we gotta have a little conflict, so Rian's gonna provide that in the form of being leery of these new people, who do otherwise seem nice. And the eldest sister, the eldest daughter of the dead Almora, is that what she was? Almadra has decided to become Almadra herself, and she's being opposed by 2 clans, the Stonewood clan, and is it the Sifa, or is it the other one?
No, it's not the Sifa, it's the one...
It's the one we keep forgetting.
Yeah, with TH.
But she's gone full evil queen, including the dark makeup and the black outfit, and she's just, yeah. They were careful to give her a backstory that made sense, why she would, like, feel this way. Still a bit of an extreme reaction, but okay.
I am enjoying the exploring the world. It is coming slowly. A lot of it is more like politics, Skeksis politics, and Almadra and Madra politics. But I kind of enjoy that too.
Because they're working with puppets, it can't quite be as swashbuckling and actiony as perhaps another fantasy would be, because it's puppets, and they did kind of leave out some action scenes, like, how do you fight several people in wearing Skeksis outfits with puppets? Like, maybe they were just like, this is gonna look stupid no matter how we do it, so we're just gonna skip that.
Do it off camera.
Yeah. I'm still hoping that we will get some kind of big fight at the end, but I understand why they're kind of, why they would sit on that or save it. They have had a few, like, smaller fights so far, and it did look pretty good, I thought, so. I just picture the humans underneath the puppets, because I know they're puppeteering them the way that Jim Henson did, which is above their heads completely, so that the Gelfling's footsteps are the human under them's footsteps. And so I just picture these humans kind of smashing up against each other underneath the Gelflings. Or whenever the Gelflings hug, I picture the humans being, like, this close to each other's faces, like, hi. I'm still enjoying it. I don't know if maybe my rose-tinted glasses will fall off after a while. Like, after I've seen all the episodes and I sit with it for a while, I might be like, oh, there's actually a bunch of problems with it. But my initial viewing, really still quite pleased.
And now we shall begin episode 7. Time to make my move.
Which, if you recall, is said by the Chamberlain, so I wonder... Chamberlain is really... It has changed from Dietz... no good, terrible, horrible, very bad day to the Chamberlains. So we'll see if he makes a comeback at all by the end of this.
Always watch it again.
I will watch it again, and I will also
make music videos.
Make so many music videos. Like, I already have a couple in my head that are forming. Anyway, on to episode 7.
I saw something. A vision.
Alright, so we just watched episode 7. That was a ride.
Things are getting dark.
Yeah. Well, first they were real weird. Involving a puppet show.
And opera.
Done by puppets. A puppet show by puppets. It was a very nice puppet show by puppets. It was pretty great. Something which I think was inevitable, a Skeksi and a mystic who have decided that they didn't want to be separated is cool to explore, because it probably would, it makes sense to have happened, that there would have been at least some who didn't think that the split was a good thing.
Especially after 2000 Trine.
Yeah. I was right. I'm very excited. Maybe this was already in some material that I didn't read, but, like, I always thought that the Urskeks came from another planet, and it turns out they did, and I was right. And maybe that's just common knowledge, and I'm the only one who wasn't, like, thinking that was canon yet, but it's canon now! And they messed around with the crystal, and, yep. So this one was kind of like telling you the story of the Dark Crystal, but, like, better than the short thing that you get at the end of the movie, where it's like, we were one being, and then we weren't, and then the Skeksis broke the crystal. Prophecy!
The Hunter and the Archer had their first duel. They interrupted the Muppet Show.
Well, the Muppet Show was pretty much over by that point. And they were explaining that they don't have the fancy sword. There's a fancy sword, by the way. I don't know why. That doesn't really come into play.
It has the wisdom of the Ursax.
Urskeks? Ursax. That sounds like what they call their balls.
Oh, yeah.
Where's
by
my
the way,
Ursac?
a couple episodes ago, it is now canon. Skeksis have at least 3 urethra.
Yes. We don't know that they have 3 penises.
But they might.
But they definitely have 3 urethra. Because they pee in spouts of 3, so that's a fun fact that you didn't need in your life, and neither did I. I really did not need to know anything about how they pee. One thing I was thinking about while I was watching this episode is the characterization. And I think that the main Gelflings are really well characterized, except Rian is a little bit of a... He hasn't got as much personality as the 2 women that he is with. And then that got me thinking about how many female characters there are. Like, most of the cool Gelflings are female, which I'm all on board with. Their society is matriarchal. It never seems like it was, like, being a male Gelfling had any other, like, downsides. Like, it's not quite one-to-one with humanity,
there are
but in
certain
reverse.
things that you just can't do as good without wings.
It's true. But it definitely seems like the female characters are getting a lot of stuff to do, which I enjoy. But I wish that Rian, who is the only male who's traveling with them right now, is Other than, well, he's male Gelfling. We have a podling who's a guy. Hup, good old Hup. We love him. Rian is kind of just the bland warrior archetype. He's there to fight the battles and to be kind of vaguely sad. But he's not really got a lot of strength of personality. Like, Deet has a very strong personality, and the princess does too, although it gets to show a little bit less now that she's on the road and not in her element, but...
You see, I think they're setting us up for Rayan thinking, ooh, it's a sword. I do sword things. It's totes for me. I'm going to save the day with swords. But it's a sword that contains their knowledge.
It's a knowledge sword. So maybe the princess should wield it because she's the knowledge one. Mm-hmm. But then kind of like, what's the point of Rian? Why is he here? To fall in love with Deet? Because he definitely is.
They were the witness of the Skeksis' evilness, and they had to spread the word.
But, yeah, so the hunter's back, and he stole the princess.
Yes, so because he couldn't stand up against the archer.
Yep, himself. He couldn't stand up against himself. The Skeksis and the Mystic, who are together because they didn't want to be separated, are pretty entertaining. It was nice to have some, like, levity before more disaster and drama and turmoil. They are very much, like... They struck me a little bit as, like, a mental illness personified, kind of, the way that they behave and with each other and everything. And, like, the two sides of this Urskek's personality weren't evil and good. They are, like, manic and depressive. The Skeksis are using... mind-controlling spiders to defeat the Gelflings, or at least the Stonewood clan. Stone and Wood. They are the stone in the wood. But now let's get on to episode 8, which is Prophets Don't Know Everything, which is a line of Kira's that I very much enjoy. So we'll see how this goes down.
We read too many stories.
No, this was real!
Okay, we just finished episode 8. Lots of stuff happened, and like it's all starting to run together in my brain because we're marathoning, and I don't usually marathon shows, but
We're one episode away from the finale.
From the finale episode, yep, and it's intense. It's getting real. Lots of stuff. Deet went back to her underground home to where her the sword is supposed to be, and my fucking laptop, of course, is starting to make noise now. Where the sword is supposed to be, and it's been taken over first by the Spitters and then by the Darkening infested creatures. So she and Rian have taught some sense into the Spitters and have formed an alliance to try and take on the Skeksis.
The Ascension.
The Ascension.
Not the Spitter.
The Ascension is the hive mind that they are all controlled by. They're essentially the Rachni. I'm not gonna lie. They're just the Rachni. Honestly, they are the least original of all of the creatures, I feel like. Deet got a vision of Jen and Kira, of Kira being carried by her mother or Deet, it's unclear, and Jen plunging the shard back into the crystal.
We don't know if that was Kira.
It looks a lot like the scene you see of Kira and her mother in the Dream Fast with Jen. So I think it's Kira, especially since you later see Jen plunging the shard back into the crystal. So why wouldn't that be Kira?
This is our upbeat before the final crush down. Everyone is getting together to fight the Skeksis, but the Ascension was beat up by the Skeksis before, so...
Yeah, and the Skeksis are freaking out because the hunter just showed up and he's got like 4 arrows?
3.
3 arrows stuck in him?
And is dying.
And he's gonna die.
And even the essence is not saving them.
But the Emperor is freaking out because if the Gelflings know that Skeksis can die, then they won't be afraid of them, or as afraid of them anymore. Because what happens when you find out that you can kill God? Overall, this episode I thought was okay. I'm not like this was the best episode. Honestly, I kind of liked the last episode with the puppets. I've just been kind of occasionally checking with the fan group as we watch as well, and some people think the humor is a big miss. I don't. I think the humor is pretty on brand for Jim Henson. A lot of people are saying that the tone is very different, which I mean, I guess.
It kind of has to be different because the original Dark Crystal was the traditional hero's journey,
Yeah.
except with 2 heroes, and they were saving the day. We know the day has to end and nightfall in this series before we can get to the point where there are only 2 Gelflings left.
And there's a lot more characters to follow. I almost feel like this is darker than the original.
It is.
Which was pretty dark. Because I think they want to give the Gelflings something that they can defeat in this story. So I think maybe they might kind of have absorb the darkening. And then, the darkening's gone, hooray! Except for the Skeksis still kill everyone, so hooroo.
This is a different story. It has to have a different tone.
And the Mystics are very, the Skeksis are making a lot of mistakes, but I think the Mystics are also making a mistake because they have completely, separated themselves from the world, except for, 2, which is the Archer and the other half of that odd Skeksis.
Of the Conqueror.
Duo there. The other ones have completely separated themselves and they're not helping, and so, they're really disconnected. And they finally decide maybe we should do something by raising Jen. But, thanks, guys. Could have used your help a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And it's probably gonna get real spoilery, even more spoilery from here on. So if you have not seen the show, or you care about spoilers at all, which you probably should, because you should watch this show, after this, there are going to be some real serious spoilers.
Indeed.
So, tread lightly, my friends. We're going to watch episode 9, The Crystal Calls, which it does.
Everything the Skeksis ever told us was a lie. And now everyone and everything is at risk.
We're almost there, you guys, and we have the MacGuffin sword. I'll be real, it's my least favorite plot point. I don't really like this sword. They have this sword that they had to find 2 pieces of in these last few episodes, and it's the Skeksis Slayer or whatever, and I'm just not really into it. The pieces are pretty easy to find. Grandma was using one as her walking cane. We've got Rian, the least interesting of the Gelflings, to wield the sword, the least interesting of the plot points. And together, they will be bland. I'm still enjoying it, though. Critiques aside, I'm still quite enjoying it. Still planning to make many, many music videos. What else happened in this episode?
The Archer and the Hunter bit the bullet, but might be undead.
I have a feeling, because Aughra was harvested to resurrect the Hunter, which didn't work, but I have a feeling she just transferred her consciousness into him, and because we've seen his hand twitch, twitching. It's really easy to psychologically fuck with the Skeksis. That is why the Chamberlain gets anywhere at all. Chamberlain is back in the good graces because he psychologically fucked with some people, and he's back where he wanted to be, and all that's left is to be Emperor for him, or at least try to. The Gelflings escaped and are now in various places, ready to band together.
With the Ascendancy and other Gelflings.
Yeah, the Gelfling kind is ready to stand up to the Skeksis. We know it's not going to work, but they're ready to try and stand up.
That's really it. Talking to everyone through magical fire, and
this kind of was just kind of the build up, the psyching yourself up for the final push kind of episode. So it wasn't the deepest or most fun episode. Oh yeah, there's 2 things I always forget to mention that I wanted to point out. Deet has 2 dads, so canonically gay Gelflings, so that's cool. Hashtag Gelflings can be gay. You know how I talked about the dream fasting was a power that Gelflings have that was well utilized within this story? The female Gelflings can fly, and that's not well utilized within the story. If I was a female Gelfling, I would never climb anything. I would just fly. It's sometimes I'm just you have wings! They get to this really tall tower, and okay, the boys can't go up, but you have wings! Or Deet is going to climb on the Landstrider, or any of the females who ride the Landstriders. Just flutter your ass up there. And at first I was well, maybe they can't take off from the ground. Maybe they need to be higher up. But we see female Gelflings take off from the ground.
Do we? When?
Yeah, the princess does it when she wants to get into the castle. And she's how am I going to do it? And then she takes off from the ground.
No, they climb up to the top of a tower and leap off of a tower and
I didn't
fly.
think she did. I'm pretty sure she took off from the ground.
Nope,
If any of
from
you
the
guys are
ground.
watching this along, and you specifically remember, comment below and let me know. I'm sure I'll watch this again, and I'll be like,
Adam's
there.
right.
uh-huh.
Did Kira ever do that?
Kira did not, because by the time Kira comes along, Kira can only drift to the ground. Like, she doesn't fly. Up until now, the thought was that female gelflings lost the ability to fly at some point. But I think what it actually is, now that we have this, is that Kira never learned how to fly.
If they have to fly with thermal updrafts or getting enough momentum from coming from a big height, that is something that you'd have to be taught and learn.
Anything
Alright.
else?
I believe
Those are my-
we've
Those are
rambled
my
enough.
2 things, but
Alright, that's it for episode 9. We are beginning episode 10.
the final episode, you guys.
A single piece was lost.
Oh man, we have not really touched on the shard at all. Only the princess, who's the smart one, when they were talking about the crystal being cracked, she was the only one and no one fucking listened to her. She was like, "Where's the shard?" Nobody listened. I was like, "Yes, thank you."
Join me, so we may finally unite as one against our true foe, the Skeksis.
We are eternal!
So we did it. We have a pizza, and we made it through the last episode, which went down about how I thought it was going to go down. The Skeksis went personally to attack the Gelflings at Stone in the Wood, and for a long time, the only ones that were there were our main group. As far as the battle went, I liked that the Skeksis definitely weren't taking it seriously. Like, it's like they thought they were fighting a bunch of children. Like, they didn't feel threatened, and they were just kind of goofing around with it. But, on the other hand, the Gelflings should have felt a lot more like they were going to die. The thing that kind of bugged both of us is, like, Rian stabs the general, and then, like, doesn't follow through because he's like, "I'm not a killer," but, like, you're a warrior. You should probably kill people. Like, bad people. They're bad people. The Gelflings have warriors. The Gelflings have been to war. It's not like they are a completely peaceful people who've never picked up a sword in their lives. Like, they fought things. They're trained for combat. But that he wouldn't kill. And they're all doing these sort of non-violent, like, smoke bombs and stuff. And it's like, I would like that a lot better if the Gelflings had been set up as a non-warrior culture completely. This is our first time doing war. How do we do it?
They win the final battle, they surround the Skeksis and defeat them eventually, and then they let them go. And it's basically, they were stupid, they did the worst military tactic possible, and if you set up your story in order that your characters have to be stupid in order for the storyline to hit where you want it to go, you've kind of failed in your story setup.
Now, I will disagree with you a little bit. I think that it was in character for the Gelflings to let the Skeksis flee. They have no idea that the Skeksis are going to come back more powerful. They think that they've won, let the Skeksis go skulking back to their castle, never bother the Gelflings again, kind of a situation. I think that's what they've done. We know, but they have no idea, that they are about to get killed. Because the Garthim have just been invented. Invincible shell monsters are coming to kill all of the Gelflings. As I predicted, Zeet absorbed all of the darkening that the Emperor had with him. Now she's wandered off into the wilderness.
To become a dark druid.
Yep.
And slowly make the world die around them.
Aughra came back, bursting out of an exploding Skeksis. Like, I don't really have too much to say because it went exactly how I thought it was going to go. The Skeksis were going to be defeated but allowed to retreat, so they could go back and build an even stronger weapon to defeat the Gelflings. We never got the prophecy. I was a little sad about that. I wanted to find out who said the prophecy. You know, when single shines the triple sun, what was sundered and undone shall be whole, the two made one, by Gelfling hand or else by none. Who said that? But we did get the shard, which was in the sword, which I kind of thought it might be, because there was a moment where there was like a little glinty glint from the sword, and I was like, maybe that's the crystal? But now that we have the crystal, we're left to wonder, how are the Gelflings going to lose the crystal? And then when's the prophecy going to come into play? I feel like if there is a second season, Deet will say the prophecy. That's my theory.
Yeah, most likely. Myself, I'm disappointed in the way the story went. You have the big coming together moment of the Gelflings at the end, but in reality, we never truly saw them apart. Because as soon as one side was like, I'm gonna side with the Skeksis against the rest of the Gelflings, because fuck the rest of the Gelflings, and then the Skeksis are just like, oh no, we're just gonna come out all out evil. 1,000 trying, 2,000 tries of deceiving you, just out the door. Whoops.
It is. I think they might have done that because they were worried they weren't going to get a second season. Like, if you know you're going to get a second season, then you have the one sister go evil, and you let her, like, stay as this empress being manipulated by the Skeksis. But I think they decided to not do that, and they wanted to wrap up the sister subplot, which was a pretty good subplot. I like the sisterhood themes. They wanted to wrap that up before the season was over because they aren't sure that they're going to get a second season. And I feel like there's a really good chance that they won't, because this show is incredibly expensive and intensive to make. And where this ended, it could flow okay into the movie. There are still loose ends. Also, Hup, he kind of gets taken out of the story, which is very disappointing because Hup is like the best character. What did you think of this series as a whole?
I enjoyed it, but I think they went the wrong direction. I was disappointed with the battle at the end, which they wrote them into a point where the characters had to be stupid for it to work, and they could have just continued on the we're divided plot line for a while and kept the Skeksis being schemers and manipulators from the back scenes and slowly transition. Like, oh, we're fighting some battles, but we're losing the war, and so we need reinforcements. So we first we get the Ascension, but then the Ascension turns on us, and now we're really losing the war. And then we start experimenting and make the Gartham, and that slowly turns the top. Like, there's a lot more story to be mined there, and it could have been a much better arc.
I think the way I would have liked to have done it is a lot less happy and hopeful. Like, I think they definitely wanted to end it on a happy, hopeful note, even though we know that these people are screwed. I wish they would have gone full Rogue One with it. And had the Gelflings are facing off against the Skeksis. Maybe the Skeksis aren't taking them seriously. Oh no, there's more Gelflings. Now the Gelflings are winning. And then all of a sudden, turns out the scientist, like had the Gartham working a lot sooner than we thought, and then a bunch of Gartham come in and just, like, kill everyone. And maybe a couple of our favorite characters escape by the skin of their teeth, and when they do, they discover that they have the crystal. So it's like, here's a little bit of hope. But also, you are so screwed, you know? A little bit more of that. Like, showing us the Gartham at the end, and you know what happens to the Gelflings, but, like, I wish that they had shown it on the screen and not had quite so happy of an ending.
Like, yeah. They could have finished it off with a less happy of an ending that would have left me satisfied and still a complete story. Like, they could have had the Skeksis show up and defeat the group that was there, and then everybody arrives and they fall back from the everybody. So everybody is pseudo-united, but they didn't actually have a victory together because the Skeksis just withdrew. And then the heroes in the main plot are the heroes from this storyline are all ground into the dust. And you have without them to unify and lead, that this fragile group of clans that came together won't last.
I don't know, I would have done it a bit differently. I'm not really as into the politic part of it as I am into the character part of it, of course. Could have had it where the Skeksis who are fighting the entire group of Gelflings, they retreat but in a less loud manner. Does that make sense? Like, instead of the Gelflings just being like, go away, bye.
Fighting withdrawal, and we actually see some Gelflings die.
And the Gelflings decide, no, we're too beat up, we can't take the fight to their castle where they undoubtedly have, like, booby traps, and, like, we can't fight our way in there.
The Skeksis have a very, like, dramatic, look at how big we are your gods maneuver, and it would have been cool to save that to the end, and they're doing a fighting withdrawal, and Gelflings are coming in around them, and suddenly they puff up really big and intimidate them. It gives them a chance to actually withdraw. In reality, it did nothing at all.
It looked cool. Because there is a reason that the Gelflings wanted to face the Skeksis on Gelfling territory, not in the castle. Like, they didn't go after the castle on purpose. So it would have made sense if they had maybe chased the Skeksis closer to their castle and were like, we can't, once they're in their castle, they're too well defended, we can't get them. So it seems that the female Gelflings can fly if given a very small boost. They just jumped off the backs of some male Gelflings and were doing the flying thing. So I would just get somebody to boost me every once in a while. I'd be like, I'm going to get up on that Landstrider. Just cup your hands and give me a little toss and I'll just fly on up there. Overall, though, even though the ending kind of let me down, like, I'm not going to hold it against this series. I still think this was a really fun series. Great to watch through. Do recommend. I really hope that lots of people watch this because I do want the analytics of Netflix to see that we want more stuff like this. We want more puppets. We want more magical worlds. We want more of this kind of thing because the world was still just as magical as it was when Jim Henson created it in his movie. And so I want to see more of this kind of thing.
Yeah, overall I'd still recommend it. I think a lot of the choices that they made that I don't like, they made because they're not sure if they will get another season.
If you liked the artistry in The Dark Crystal, which, let's be honest, that's the main reason to watch that movie, you will not be disappointed by this. Agra was great. Deet was great. Hup was great. Lots of good characters. Lots of good characters, some really good character moments that will hit you in the feels at least a little bit. So yes, I do recommend this. So if you have even just watched The Dark Crystal and didn't hate it, give this a shot. Any final words, Adam?
No. You've said all the words.
I've said every single word.
Mm-hmm.
Except for moldy mildew, mother of mouth muck, which should be included in everyone's swearing vocabulary. Mm. Alright, I gotta go. I need to walk the dog and feed the cats. The animals have been so neglected today because we've been doing nothing but watch The Dark Crystal. But, you guys, The Dark Crystal. This was again another weird video, but I do have a lot of videos about random geeky things and also lots about books and writing here on this channel. If you liked what you saw, feel free to wander the channel and check stuff out. You can support me on Patreon if you're like, damn, that woman needs some money to buy more pizza. Go support me on Patreon. And Adam, who is left, and I will see you again next time with whatever it is we happen to be doing next time. Bye! It's that time again. It's time to shout out this month's lovely patrons. Lennox, Amanda, Thelia, Jenny, Joseph, Kim, Lisa, Sabby Panda, Sam, Sarah, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. I'm still so astounded and honored that I have so many awesome patrons helping me out. You guys rock.